So I warned Ruth Ann that I'm going to say something before this gets started because this passage just needs a little more explanation. You heard the one part already, but now she's going to give you the beginning start of the story. But when you hear her speak, this is what I want you to be thinking about. And the very simple fact is, this story breathes ancient. This is the oldest story that we have. I'm quite serious. Before the story of Adam and Eve was written in the garden, this story was. This story is old. This story has been told around campfires from the very beginning when people could tell stories. And so it is ancient, it's old, and because of that, it also creaks a little. And in the creaking, what I want you to hear is how when Ruth Ann reads at the beginning, the very first passage, the very first part of the passage she reads, God is very sorrowful. He's very hurt. And I'm going to tell you why. But then hear how it changes. And God becomes the judge and lays down a decree without any feeling whatsoever. And I'll explain that why. Some of you that have come to Bible study will have a heads up on some of the rest of you, but we'll all get through it okay. All right? So now, one of the oldest stories ever told. Ruth Ann.
The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, and make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. The word of the Lord. Praise be God.
So when you have a story that is this ancient, what you have when people begin to write it down, which remember, many of these stories began long before the written word. You have people that I call them editors. And they can't help it. They add what is their very reality, what's going on in their life at that time. And so at the beginning of Ruth Ann's passage, what you heard was God saying how sorry he was, and how deeply grieved he was, and how he felt terrible about what he was going to have to do. And that's because that when this story was being crafted in and finished up and modeled down, that the people were in captivity. They were already in Babylon. Their flood story had already happened. Their judgment had already occurred. And the very simple of the fact was they were already mournful. They were already sorrowful. And they were wondering, did God care at all? Had he had any compassion when he sent us into this place? Does God care? Yes. And so that editor, that person, wrote in God's compassion, God's caring, and that this hurt God as much as it hurt them. Now, as soon as the account of Noah and his sons began to happen, we see a different person beginning to make the end, and who isn't quite as concerned about the compassion of God, because he's writing in the 8th century when the Assyrians are about to attack, and he's trying to get the people to wake up. If you just wake up and repent, you won't get punished. If you'll just wake up. And so he wants God to really lay it down. Put it on them. Tell them that this is what's going to happen if you don't repent and turn. And so out of these two people, we see the ancient story taking shape and coming forward and presenting to us a very simple question. How far can you push God's grace? Seriously. Now, when you were a kid, I assume you all had fathers. And so we're going to talk a little bit about fathers and mothers because they are the disciplined figures of your life. And so the question, pretty simple for me growing up, and I would guess it might be the same for you, is just how far can I push it before I get in trouble? And so, I just kind of start wandering. And, as long as Dad's not saying anything, well, maybe I can wander a little farther. And again, if Dad doesn't say anything, well, guess what I'm going to do? Just a little farther. And we'll just kind of keep going this way. And see, I'm going to go out the door here in a minute if somebody doesn't stop. And so, see, we'll just keep going until somebody stop. And then I might return and go, lesson learned. Lesson learned. And I know parameters of how far I can go. Now, whether you like to admit it or not, you all have done this in your life. Each and every one of you in this place has pressed a boundary, has taken it to the very edge to see where the edge is. Now, there's nothing wrong necessarily with that. You got smacked, and if you're smart, you know to back up. If you're stupid like me, you probably took another step forward and got smacked a little harder the next time. Or, heaven help, some of you that are really advanced might have done it yet a third. There are certain children that just test the limits of a parent's grace, aren't there? And so, it just happens, and I'm not saying good or bad of anyone, and nobody, I can guarantee you, if he was still alive today, no one would be more surprised than my dad that I'm standing here. Guarantee you that very simple fact. And so that's what we do, right? We press. And so in this passage, this ancient story, of course, is bringing us something that's just an age-old truth. And that is, we want to know our limits. And we want to know our end. We want to know if we can walk through life and do whatever we want, and then when we're done, by the end of life, when we get to heaven, we all go to heaven, right? And we all go to heaven, and we have a great big party up there, right? No. I think I pressed the boundary too far. Let me back up. Let me back up just a little bit. So we walk through life and we learn God's commands and laws and decrees, and we have a choice on whether we want to walk with those decrees and those laws or not. And when we get to heaven, we'll have to answer for how we walked. That sound a little better? Do I need to go back for a third time, or are we okay? I'm just checking. Somebody may have a third opinion out there. This is our challenge in life, is to learn our boundaries. Now, God is a God of endless love. And I'm going to give Denise credit when she deserves it, because she walked into my office not 45 minutes ago and said this very thing, so I'm just going to steal it. But I gave her credit, so it's not called stealing. Okay? No, that's what it's called. And so we know that if we go before God and are truly sorry for what we have done, God will forgive. It doesn't matter what it is. It really doesn't matter what it is. The key is to truly be repentant about what has happened and to truly ask for forgiveness before God. And God's grace is incredible. He is that perfect Father. That even though, maybe seconds before, He was burning with anger towards you. Because, oh man! How can this person I have told 100 times not to do that? This kid is killing me. But then you come and truly sorrowful, and God knows your heart. You can't fool God. God knows your heart, and you say, I am truly sorry. I'm going to try to do better. God will. All right. And all of a sudden, that anger is as far as the east from the west. And His love takes over, and He goes, we're good. We're good. But the story of the ark reminds us of something. That in this journey, and I've just been in a conference up in Loveland where I know there's a lot of people that they like to focus on just this unending love of God, and I agree. It's unrelenting, it's unending, it's all-powerful. God is love. Yes. I agree. But the story of Noah tells us something again of boundary. Because if you notice, how long do you think it took Noah to build that ark? An hour? Long time. Years?
Yes.
Any time in any of those years, do you suppose if a person came and said, Noah, I believe in what you're doing, and I want to accept God, and I want to help you, and Noah gives him a hammer, do you think God would have made an exception and let him in the ark?
Yes.
Absolutely, positively, no doubt about it. Grab a hammer and you're in, my brother or sister. Now, how many did?
God.
Family. No one. And the boundary of love is simply that sometimes a door closes. There comes a moment for each and every one of us, and I can't tell you when that moment is for you. But there is a moment where we will all stand before God, and our deeds are done. All the acts that we can have done are completed. And our chance at begging for forgiveness and God's grace is closed. And God will look at you and say, well done. Or I never knew you. You definitely didn't know me. And that door is closed. And it doesn't matter how hard you pound on it. It doesn't matter how hard you pry on it. It doesn't matter what negotiating tricks or tactics you take at that point. So, the door is closed. The door is closed. So we have today. It doesn't matter from the youngest of us here today to the very oldest. We have today to decide, are we going to serve God this day? Are we going to recognize His gifts and His goodness and His grace and live accordingly to His commands? Or are we going to do whatever we want, chill it through life, and hope when we get to heaven that God won't stand by His word? God has given us this opportunity today to accept His grace. Don't let the sun set without taking Him up on His offer. And folks, I want to say this. I'm getting off the altar because I believe this, so I don't want to say it up there. If I'm wrong, I want a burn spot here. So, it's important where the burn spots go in life. So, it's one of those. You know, when you have a wife that's mad at you, you massage it so it hits in the right place, right? You don't want it at Walmart because then everybody sees. So you make sure you get it later when you're alone. So this is just tweaks you and I and a camera. Only place we're going. I firmly believe with all my heart that God's extension of grace is to everyone.
But we have to do our part.
But we gotta do our